Thank you so much. Our economics editor will life for Greeks and other Europeans may be looking bleak as they contemplate austere times ahead. But one country in particular has shown there's life after austerity, and that's Indonesia. Now, the nation was severely affected by the Asian financial crisis back in 1997. That forced the IMF to bail it out, imposing fiscal responsibility at a cost of short-term political unrest. Sound familiar? Well, fast forward 12 years and Indonesia has turned a corner. The country's debt burden has shrunk from 150% of GDP to just 27% as of March of this year. Now, per capita income has doubled over the last 6 years and foreign direct investment has almost tripled since 2004. But can this be sustained? Well, let's ask our next guest. He's Gita Bloomberg, Indonesia's investment minister. Minister, thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, it was interesting listening to our economics editor. Here in Europe, there's so much talk, of course, on imposing automatic sanctions, on the deficits that are ballooning. This has something that's now been put to rest. But how concerned are you about what we're seeing in Europe? On the one hand, a lot of investors are saying, well, actually, Indonesia is in a better place compared to Italy and Spain, but it must affect you.
It does affect Indonesia to some extent, but as we look at our flows of capital to Indonesia, it's been predominantly from Asia-Pacific countries. So I think on that end, I think we feel pretty comfortable. But we are still making efforts and taking a lot of steps to basically entice interest from the more developed markets, such as Europe and the United States. What we're doing here in London is to basically meet up with as many opinion leaders as possible, with the view and belief that, as time goes by and recovery takes place in, this part of the world and the U.S., I think Indonesia will be much more ready to attract a lot more capital. So we're really optimistic about, I think, making or enlarging the pie.
But how exactly do you entice investors? Because, on the one hand, a lot of people are saying, yes, Indonesia is becoming stronger. Yeah. It certainly seems more healthy than some countries here. But at the same time, because of what, the so-called currency war, yeah, you may pay the price heavily.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two groups of people. One of those that do not know about Indonesia, and the other is a group of people that have known Indonesia through the prism of, the press, maybe 10 or 11 years ago, which unfortunately has not portrayed Indonesia as positively as we would have liked to be portrayed. And as we are approaching these two groups of people, I think they become much more educated of the new Indonesia, which can certainly say that, we've got the necessary fiscal sustainability and monetary stability.
Are you not concerned about inflation, for example?
No. We had spikes of domestic demand in 2005 and 2008, but it has been relatively manageable from a monetary policy standpoint. I think the real issue in terms of managing inflationary pressure is building connectivity in Indonesia, which would, I think, establish better logistical infrastructure so that cost of operations could further come down.
How much foreign direct investment are you hoping to attract next year?
This year we're looking at about 20 to 22 billion US as opposed to 13 billion last year. Next year we've got to certainly go up with a view of reaching about 50 to 60 billion in 2014.
And this in what sectors? I mean, what sectors seem the most attractive and that can grow the most in your country?
We've got a more competitive labor cost than countries like China and Vietnam, and we're seeing relocation of factories from China and Vietnam. I think we've got to focus on manufacturing of a lot of goods, but I think to get there, in terms of industrializing ourselves, we've got to get the infrastructure ready, and that's basically the building of roads and power generation capabilities.
And have you been approached by Western companies
or
big U.S. companies?
We have.
Will you make a decision on who gets those contracts fairly soon?
I think we'll make decisions pretty fairly in terms of who gets to come to Indonesia. I do believe with everything that we're doing, I think we'll be able to reach out to a larger universe of investors.
All right, Minister Bloomberg, thank you so much, and the best of luck. Well, coming up, we're back in the newsroom for an in-depth look at the stock market, plus high-speed trains take on short-haul flights.